This summer, our country will hit 10 million encounters at our border since Joe Biden has become president. We're at 9.6 million encounters right now. That is a shocking number. That doesn't even include 1.6 million known gotaways during that time. There were only a little over 1.4 million gotaways in the entire decade of 2010s. So again, going from 2010 to 2020, 1.4 million. Since Joe Biden has been president, that number of gotaways is now 1.6 million. That number ranged from a low of 86,000 to a high of about 171,000 in the fiscal year of 2013. The numbers have now skyrocketed to 606,000 in fiscal year 2022 and 670,000 in fiscal year 2023. President Biden is on track to have more illegal border crossings in his one term than any president ever, even those who have served 2 full terms. The Biden administration's refusal to secure our southern border has far-reaching consequences. It's killing our young people by allowing fentanyl to pour into our communities. It's risking our national security as encounters with known terrorists soar. Earlier this month, 2 Jordanian nationals who crossed the border illegally recently tried to breach the barricades at a Virginia military base. Some reports are calling it a possible ISIS dry run. It's also going to have major ramifications on our elections. Right now, illegal immigrants are counted in the census. That data is used to decide how many congressional seats and electoral college votes a state gets. The electoral college elects the president. The number of congressional seats impacts which party controls the House of Representatives and, by the way, determines where billions of federal dollars are spent. The current system rewards cities and states that break our immigration laws and punishes states like Nebraska that follow them. Democrats know this. In fact, they admit they're rigging the system for partisan gain. Earlier this year, a video surfaced of Congresswoman Yvette Clarke, a Democrat from New York, openly calling for more illegal immigration to her district. She said she needed more people for, quote, redistricting purposes, end quote. That's ridiculous. The census policy must change. Only U.S. citizens can vote in federal elections. Only citizens should be counted for the purposes of federal elections. Earlier this year, I introduced the Equal Representation Act with Senator Bill Hagerty of Tennessee to make that a reality. This common sense bill would require the Census Bureau to include a citizenship question on any future census. It would prohibit non-citizens from being counted for the purpose of congressional district or electoral college apportionment. It would also require them to tell the American people how many U.S. citizens there actually are. Crazy concept for a census, huh? Ensuring congressional representation is based upon citizenship is a matter of fairness and respecting the law. Our bill recently passed the House. When we voted on it in the Senate, every single Democrat voted against it. They also refused to include it in the border bill that we're voting on this week. We must stop counting illegal aliens in the census. I am going to keep fighting until we get that done. With that, I'm happy to open up this to questions on this topic first, and then we'll take questions on other topics. And of course, as always, please identify your name and publication as you ask your question.
Chris Wagner at NTV.
Go ahead, Chris.
Senator, a quick question about your bill. So does that just affect, if it were to eventually go through, would it only affect the Electoral College and congressional representation and not the other stuff that the census helps dictate as far as how much federal funding can go towards different things? I think some people that maybe would see that bill would be concerned that any drop in population, according to the census, that could impact Nebraska adversely. I'm looking at American Immigration Council's website. This is just according to their count, that there were 60,000 undocumented immigrants in the state of Nebraska in 2016, which was about 3% of the total state population. So I guess is it just those two things, electoral college and congressional representation, and would it have an impact on, making sure Adrian Smith continues to have a job and that we don't cut down to two representatives?
Actually, if you think about it, because blue states like New York and California are disproportionately drawing the number of illegal immigrants, and it's one of the reasons why they want to. For example, the mayor of New York City is offering debit cards, cash, to illegal immigrants who come there. It would actually benefit Nebraska more so when it comes to population and determining things like the Electoral College, keeping our congressional seats, and then potentially the federal spending as well. So frankly, because other states like New York and California are disproportionately getting more illegal immigrants than we are, we would actually, as Nebraska, benefit. And that's why I say the current system rewards states that are encouraging, breaking the law, this illegal immigration, and in case of, for example, the mayor of New York, creating incentives for illegal immigrants to come there, versus states like Nebraska where we follow the law. We would be better off by being able to make sure the census was only counting U.S. citizens.
Do you believe there's an avenue to get this bill or a bill similar to it passed through the Senate and the House?
Well, what we need to do is frankly, it's going to have to wait for us to, again, pass the House. So our bill already did pass the House. Every single Democrat voted against it. So what we need to do is, as Republicans, take majority of the U.S. Senate and then bring the bill back and get it passed. All right, any other questions on that topic? All right, hearing none, we'll go ahead and open it up to questions on other topics.
I'll go ahead and jump in. The day Attorney General Mike Hilgers here in Nebraska issuing a lawsuit against TikTok. Considering your background when you were governor with TikTok, I was wanting to see if you had gotten a chance to see any of that or if you had any thoughts on that action from today.
Well, I have not had a chance to see what the Attorney General, the basis for his lawsuit against TikTok is. But I can tell you, as governor, I was the first governor to ban TikTok from state devices in the state of Nebraska, or the first governor in the country, rather, to ban TikTok on state devices. Because at that time, I knew how dangerous TikTok was. TikTok is owned by ByteDance, a Chinese company. By Chinese law, they have to do whatever the Chinese Communist Party is telling them to do. That includes gathering information on Americans and spying on Americans. But it also includes, and we've got all the data to show this, that the Chinese Communist Party is using TikTok to push its malign agenda to create division in the United States. So, for example, I just got off the floor talking about how we need to support the state of Israel in its war against Hamas and push back against anti-Semitic organizations like the UN and the ICC. And if you look at Americans and you poll them, they broadly support Israel. Just about every age group, it's a big margin of support for Israel. Yet on TikTok, what you see is pro-Hamas, pro-Palestinian content outweighs pro-Israel content 50-1. 50-1. There's no statistical world where that makes any sense. This is a part of the propaganda that the Chinese are pushing on us to create and sow division in our country. So again, I'm not familiar with what the lawsuit is that the Attorney General is bringing, but I can tell you that the law we passed to require TikTok being sold to an American company, American ownership, is absolutely critical to prevent this malign influence of the Chinese Communist Party in our country. All right. Any other questions?
I do actually. I was going to wait for other people to jump in, but I have a couple sports-related ones. Those would be a little more fun.
Okay. Go ahead, shoot.
I wanted to see if you had any thoughts on the change in schedule or change in plans for Memorial Stadium. The new athletic director announcing the South Stadium will not be torn down after this coming season. They're going to push that back. They're going to push a lot of that $450 million project back. You as a senator and as a Nebraskan, I just figure we'll see what your thoughts on that were.
Well, I certainly I'm not involved in the details with regard to the stadium renovation project. I think the plans they have or the ideas they have to be able to make the seats more accommodating and also look for what they can do to improve the sorts of amenities we have are all good things for us to be able to do. I certainly haven't seen the exact plans for how they're changing things, so I trust that they're doing this for good reasons, that they need to make these adjustments. I do think that Nebraskans really cherish Memorial Stadium, so we want to make sure that it continues to get modernized so we can use it well into the future to cheer on our Husker football team.
And my follow-up to that is I'm just reading here that there are rumors that a Husker home game, potentially September 21st against Illinois, will be moved to a Friday night. It would be Friday night, September 20th. And obviously this isn't nearly as important as everything else you could be talking about right now. But I know a lot of Husker fans and folks will be disappointed, I assume, that it'll be moved to a Friday night for Fox only because of high school football in the state of Nebraska. And I know you're a football fan, and just wanted to see if you had any thoughts on Nebraska playing a home game on a Friday night in Memorial Stadium.
I think it's always good to try new things, to mix it up a little bit. And, if you try a Friday night game and you find that it creates problems, and you can always change it later. But, this could be a fun opportunity to be able to try something new, change things up a little bit. So to me, it sounds like it could be a potentially really fun idea. All right. Any other questions? All right. Hearing none, we'll go ahead and wrap up the call. But folks, again, I appreciate the opportunity to be able to do these press calls, let you know what's going on here in D.C., give you the opportunity to ask me questions. We'll continue to do this going forward, and I hope everybody has a great rest of your week. Thanks again for joining.